In the wake of coronavirus, I've been seeing all sorts of heartwarming stories and things that people have been doing all over the country in order to be able to help those who are unable to leave their houses. One of my favorite things was Storytime, where people, learned people, educators, teachers, and typically people who know how to read, will sit in front of a camera and read a story. So I thought that I would join in on the game, throw my hat into it, if you will. And tonight I'm going to sit down and read Baby Bear, What Do You See? So go ahead and feel comfortable in giving your kids the phone like you always do and go watch a murder mystery or something like that. I'll get them to sleep. Alright, saddle up. Baby Bear, What Do You See? By Bill Martin and Eric Carle. Eric Coral. Baby bear, what do you see? I see a red fox slipping by me. Red fox, what do you see? I see a flying squirrel gliding near me. It's a good thing the flying squirrel's gliding because I think that he's a bit lower on the food chain than the fox. Flying squirrel, what do you see? I see a mountain goat climbing near me. Everything's just like right next to each other, isn't it? Mountain goat, what do you see? I see a blue heron flying by me. Blue heron, what do you see? I see a prairie dog digging by me. See a baby bear, and the red fox is by him. And the red fox is by the flying squirrel. And the mountain goat is near the flying squirrel. And the blue heron is flying by the mountain goat. And the prairie dog is by the blue heron. Okay, here we go. Prairie dog, what do you see? I see a striped skunk strutting by me. All right, so striped skunk, mule deer, but then rattlesnake. Rattlesnake is by the mule deer, and the mule deer is by the skunk. And the skunk is by the prairie dog, which means that the prairie dog is by the rattlesnake. What's by the rattlesnake? An owl. It's a freaking owl. Oh, and then mama bear. Mama bear is next to the screech owl. So you have the apex predator of the forest that is right next to a mule deer. I'm drawing it out. Alright, pull up my battle board, because a lot of the stuff I do on my page is tactical themed, and I think that I am obligated at that point to tag at least one company. We're going to tag Stadler markers. So let's say that when you say the word by next to whatever, let's give it a generous 50 yards. Because any more than that, then it's just you're in the general area. You're not necessarily by it. So let's say maximum 50 yards. Now again, the only issue here is going to be the screech owl. That's where we could potentially have a hiccup because it wasn't by or near, it was at. There's also a geographical features that disrupt the logic as well. Whether or not these are indigenous species aside, whether or not they actually all live within the same biome. If you have a mountain goat on the top of a mountain, or at least on the side of a mountain, then I don't think that it's going to be, next to a prairie dog. But again, I'm not a biologist. So we have baby bear, and it's next to him. So I'm going to draw a circle. It's going to represent the radius, the 50-yard radius, 50 yards in any direction. And we're gonna push it to the 50 yards just to see if this entire story is actually possible, because you have what's essentially the entire food chain that is standing right next to each other. Because I feel like the story wouldn't be taking place. I feel like it would be absolute chaos. I don't even know how to represent this. There's too many variables. So I'm going to swap this up a bit. So I feel like, how many animals are there? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, including mama bear. Separate them out into carnivores and herbivores, or animals that might eat the other animal. So fox eats flying squirrel, the prairie dog, and maybe not the striped skunk. Rattlesnake, he'll definitely eat the flying squirrel and the prairie dog, probably not the skunk. Screech owl eats the rattlesnake, the prairie dog, and the flying squirrel. But I feel like the blue heron eats the flying squirrel, the prairie dog. But I feel like the blue heron isn't even indigenous. I feel like isn't the blue heron like a swamp or wetlands? But then you have the baby bear. And the funny thing is that you have all these animals that are standing between mama bear and baby bear. I feel like in order for this story to be possible, there would have to be a special arrangement. If they were arranged in a straight line, I've lost interest. Mama bear, what do you see? I see a red fox, a flying squirrel, a mountain goat, a blue heron, a prairie dog, a striped skunk, a mule deer, a rattlesnake, a screech owl, and my baby bear looking at me. That's what I see. The end. And that right there is baby bear, what do you see? Although I do feel like at this point that, considering the amount of variables and the amount of chaos that is inherent in the story, I feel like the most appropriate title for this book would be Baby Bear, what do you see? I see Jeff Goldblum explaining chaos theory to Laura Dern in the front seat of a Ford Explorer. By Bill Martin Jr. and Eric Carle. Eric Carle! Yeah, because memes.